Hello everyone, I'm Ashish and today I'm back with another video on best practices. So best practices meaning like we as a software developer at times tends to just focus on the logic and get the task done and don't follow what exactly needs to be followed as part of a development process. So here I have 8 to 10 points to discuss and which is part of a developer's daily lifestyle, daily tasks. They should like they should keep the standard up to the mark, and that is good for an organization and for the team to work on and in certain aspects. So let's start with the first one. Follow camel casing for variables and methods. So this is a minute part but a significant part as well. Like at times what happens is that, say for example, we are we are like looping through inside a method. So in that case we just put a variable like int I equals to 5, or int abc equals to 2, or string s equals to some variable, some constant. So these things should be avoided. Like instead we should have meaningful variable names, and plus the camel casing standard should be followed. Say for example, if we want to iterate for iterate 10 times over a list, and we want to temporarily, say for example, we want to iterate over 100 times for an invoice, and we want to pull the invoice which is having a balance of more than $100, and then we should have a variable name which says invoice amount 100 or more than 100, invoice with amount more than 100, something which is contextual to that particular logic. It's not that like we should have a variable, say invoice amount or invoice amount 100 or something like that. So that should be avoided. And and as I said, camel casing and proper variable name and methods are significant. Say for example, in this case, we have some examples of method declarations and some variables. So here you can see customer id camel cased and properly named. Then outstanding, only outstanding, here two words are used. So here we have camel cased properly, and the method name. So you can see get invoices by customer. So just by going the name, it seems that it will return list of invoices. So here we have list of invoices as a return type. So so method name is as significant as following as the method actually, what exactly the method is doing. So keeping this in mind, keeping camel casing and proper method name, all these is important for us to write proper code, so that if someone senior looks into the code, he should be able to say that yes, this guy is good in coding as he understands these basic aspects. So let's, and over here, say for example, if we say if we have another method which says get invoice by customer, then from the name it seems that it will return only single object of invoice if that invoice is present. If not, then it may return null. So in that case, that this s will not be there. So in that case we will just have an invoice object as a response, not the list. So name is important, and we should follow what exactly the method is doing, and like we should interpret what exactly the method is doing in the method name. So for example, this method, it says get customer financials. Here we have a problem. The problem is that this method, this object name, which is say let's talk about this. So this object name which is having an s at the end, which means this is misleading because this is a single object and this should have only customer financial as the name, not customer financials. Similarly, if you go to this method, it is having customer financials. So I'm assuming that it should be a list of customer financials, but here I can see only a single object. So this is not good. So we should not follow these practices. Instead, we should have just customer financial if we are pulling it single object, and s just like this if we have a list of objects to pull from. Okay, and then coming to the third third example, here we have safe payment method. This payment method is kind of a generic meaning we don't know whether this is coming from the UI or from the API or any other sources. So for that, this could be something like uh, UI call is UI call is coming to converging to the same payment method, safe payment method, and API call is also coming to safe payment method. So in this way, safe payment method is okay, because this seems to be a generic payment method. This method seems to be generic. But if we come from say for example, if you want to have a separate method for UI and separate method for payment for the API, then we should have something like safe payment method UI or safe payment method at the end API. So these seems to be relevant in their aspects. But yes, so in short, this safe payment method is kind of uh, okay if we have just one mode of payment in a system. But if we have more than two mode of payments, like two two channels of payment, then we should keep the name as generic name, like safe payment method UI or safe payment method API, or REST safe payment method or safe payment method UI. Okay, so these are the things which we need to look into. And if you follow the method parameters, it is self-explanatory, like payment details to replace DTO, then payment method DTO, customer reference number, customer ID. So this method is self-explanatory what exactly this is doing. Okay, similarly over here, since we saw that it is returning a list of invoices, so here we have offset, max, only outstanding, so the start date, end date. So these are the filters which we use to return a list of invoices. So this is also a good practice to pass on the parameters instead of assuming all that to be a hard coded values. Okay, so now coming to formatting the code. Formatting the code is also a important aspect in a way. Is that, say, let's talk about this example. Here we have an if condition. It says if org is mm, if we don't have org object, then we should pull it from biz manager service and dot fetch organization. So from this method we should fetch it. That's okay. I, as a senior developer, able to understand this, but this is not a good practice of doing it. Even if you look at here the indentation is not proper. Here we have, here it's okay. Here also we should make sure that this defs should go inside, these defs should be indented by one tab, just like how it is over here. Say we have an if condition, and this statement is indented by one tab. And over here, this is the unformatted code and this is the formatted code. So here you can see it looks, sorry, I overwrite, yes. So over here, so so this looks cleaner. Like if org is not there, then we are setting the value of the organization org, then we are pulling the user, then defining a customer variable, then checking if it's a customer contact object or not. And so this looks cleaner. So we should all once we done the code, like while doing the code, we don't understand like we don't bother about formatting it. But once the code is done, we should use the ID features to just directly format the code. It would look cleaner, just like this. Okay, so this is also a simple, as in a minor, this is also a minor thing, but we should keep it in mind as well. Let's move on to comments in code. So, so here I have classified them into three cases. So the first case is, say we have a payment method. So we have a method, and this method says internal delete payment method. Fine. It is taking some parameters. That's okay. Now let's check. So see, the say for example, this comment is not here for this method. So what happens is, so for if I have this method seems to be deleting the payment method internally. So if I So in the UI, if I click on delete payment method, then internally this method will be invoked and that will be vanished from the system. This is my assumption based on looking at the code, looking at the method signature. So let's, so this is, so this is one point, and second point is, now let's see, we have this comment, and let's read the comment. Deletes the payment method and moves other payment methods up so that the preference numbers are adjusted due to the deletion. Okay, which means this internal delete payment method is actually not deleting the payment method or not wiping out the data from the system. It is basically reordering the payment method so that that deleted payment method should not appear in the UI or should not be used actively, or it should be deactivated rather. So see, this one line method signature is explanatory but not up to the mark. So that's why we need this method comments. This will give a clear explanation on what's happening inside this method. At times what happens that the method is like maybe 100 200 lines big, and in that case we, instead of going through all the lines, we just read the comments, and based on that we can make the assumption. Okay, so this is the reason why commenting on method which we create is important. Now let's go back, let's check the second aspect. Here we haven't defined or explained the variables. At times in some of the cases it is self-explanatory, but if we need to do that, in that case we will be using this format. This is automatically populated when we enter slash and double star and hit enter. It will pop up in this fashion. It will create something in this fashion, and we can write the comments about the method what it is doing. And even if you want to add some comments on the parameters, like what exactly the value they will be having, and what could happen if it is null, or what all these things we can put in for the comments. Even if we had some return types, say instead of void we had string, then in that case we would put in over here that what should be the value returned from there, either a string or null or something else. So that is defined in this method signature, like in this method comments. So we should keep this as a practice of adding method comments in any method we write. Okay, now coming to case 2. Case 2 is that, say for example, we have a critical if condition, or we have a critical condition in a code, and this, someone who is new to the code may not be able to understand. So for them we can have a comments at the top of the if condition. This will make them understand, like, yes, what's happening in what is the use, what is the exact problem, or what is the exact thing which we are doing in using this if condition, or what is the exact use case for this if condition. Okay, and the third case is, say for example, we want to override or we want to change this if condition. So what will happen in this case? See, previously this if condition was that if not group and not invoice customer dot groups or something else. So here what has changed is that if not group and notification enabled. So this is changed. So what I have done is that, or what should be done is that, we have added this another set of comments over here which says change 06, like whatever be the date and whoever be the user, just put in that change and then add additional comments on what has changed over here. This will make them understand that yes, this has been changed and a new definition has been added to this. Otherwise we have changed this and the comment would have been old, then it would be misleading for the developer as well. Okay, so these are the cases. Now let's move on to I hope you are understood the aspects of these minor things in a day-to-day development life. Okay, so now going to use of to-dos. To-dos are also not very talked about, but still we can use them in for our benefit. Say for example, we have a function to write, but right now we don't know exactly what's going to be the logic. So what we can do is that we can add a to do and put some comments, say for example that functional more functionality need to be added, or to do proper testing of this case. Say for example, this has been done in 10 places in our code. So if we go to the editor and click on to-dos, it will show up all the to-dos which we have put in the code. So it will be beneficial for us to find them out and do the necessary changes. And say for example, if you missed out on this, and say for example you are working on a function, okay, and then suddenly you got a defect, and you had to fix that defect, then you want to push that change. So what will happen is that at the time of pushing, so if this check to do is checked, then you'll see that yes, there is a list of to dos which is there, and you might find it out that yes, this is an incomplete code and I shouldn't be pushing it right this in this status. Either I need to complete that, comment it out, or just remove it from the version control for now and then commit it. So this is the advantage of to dos, and we should be using it regularly in our code. It is beneficial for us itself ourselves. Then coming to point number 5 is read code. Mm, like like many freshers and experienced developers sometimes finds it difficult to implement some logic because they don't have the practice of understanding like how code should be implemented. That we can either learn it from online tools and all, like online videos and or blogs and all that, but ultimately reading other people's code will also make them understand how some functions or some principles can be implemented. Code is basically a tool. We need to implement use it to find solution to our problems. So there could be a case that someone else has done that previously, so just go through them how they have done it, and then take reference from there and implement it in our system. So that is the reason code reading is important, be it your current company or some open source projects from GitHub. So all this is important. So let's go through the 4 points which I have over here. So current company code base. So like say for example, go to any website, or sorry, like go to your company website and take any functionality. So just deep dive into the front end part and then navigate till the back end, what exactly is happening, how the flow is working. So this way you will be able to understand better how the code works or how other tools are integrated. Say for example, there could be a queue used in the flow. So you'd be able to understand how that queue works, how the queue is configured. So all that you'll be able to understand. Then coming to the tech stack of the project. So before getting into a project, or maybe when you get into a new project, so you should always first check what tech stack that project is using. And if you are not familiar with one of them, you should quickly get yourself familiar with, and then come back here and then take reference from the code and see like how that how that logic is implemented over here, what is the syntax and all that. So this will be easier for us to understand and grow. Like for front end, maybe some applications use React, so you're not comfortable with React, so you will be having problems. So just go through or watch a couple of videos of React, come back to the project and go through how those functionalities or how those concepts are implemented. That will be, if if you prepare all this beforehand, then say for example in that new application, if you get some task to like add new functionality or add new feature, then it would be easier for us to understand and implement that. Like for backend, some companies use Spring Boot, some use .NET, other frameworks. And for queues we usually prefer AWS SQS, and like many other queues are there. This is just one example. Then for mail, what library we are using, and for deployment, what tools we are using for bug tracking. And so these things which a developer should be aware of, like when they're doing something on the project. Like at times, people may ask, and may not, but you should be able to have that in your system, in your memory, that yes, in this project I'm using Java 8, and in the other project I'm using Java 17. So this should be in tip of your mouth. Then versions. So versions is also important, as I said, because at most of the times with build tools like Gradle and Maven, some Java version, some IDE version doesn't match properly. So you should be able to know that yes, this issue could be due to some version mismatch. Look for the latest version or look for the compatible version of that software which we can use in our system. So version understanding of version is also important. So we should be able to uh, have that capability to understand that as well. Then open source code from GitHub. So like this is an example of a code base. So there you can go through it and check how the classes are implemented, how the variables are implemented, then the methods and how that has been designed. See, these are written by some standard practice following standard practices. So you can understand them and then you can implement that in your system as well, in your code as well rather. So coming to the fourth point, improve your old project with best practices. So like once you go through all this and then you can either create your own project to implement them, or if you have any existing project then you can refactor them to have the standard practice implemented. Say for example, in your company you are using AWS SQS for queues, and in your code you don't have any provision for that. So just implement that AWS SQS in your code and see how that is configured and how that usage of AWS SQS is impacting on the application which you have created. Like is it enhancing or is it degrading? So based on that you can come up with a decision that yes, this AWS SQS might be usable for large scale application, not for a small project. So all these things which comes into mind after going through all this will increase your confidence and you'll be able to be a better developer in future. Then coming to point number 6, logging is most important thing for a developer because it is the only source of information when some issue occurs in production or in production. So like when someone is making a payment and the payment fails, you will get to see some status, some error message from the payment provider, payment processor. But actually what happened in the system, that you'll be able to capture from the logs. So that's why having a proper log statement is important. Like the logs should always uh, epic depict actually what's happening and for whom. Say for example, a payment is processed. So if you just simply put this log statement, this is useless. Like I don't know for which invoice this payment has been made, for which customer, for which organization, and what is the amount and which payment method has been used. So I'm not aware of all these parameters for this customer, so it will be impossible for me to find and fix that issue. So this is the best common practice to add a logging statement in case of a payment method, in case we are doing a payment method. Like this is just an example of what relevant data should be there in the logs. Say for example, if you're processing a payment, then payment type should be there, amount should be there, payment method type should be there. I think these two are same. Then for customer, for which customer and for which organization this payment has been done. So all these parameters should be there. Say for example, this is the log statement from the production server, and you can see this is the org ID, this is the customer ID, this is the credit card, and this is the credit card last four digits. This is the amount, and this is a payment. So with this information, we will be able to track what happened above all these, above this log and below this log message. So with that we will be able to track the issue in quick time, and it would be not it would be easier for us as well. Because see, in production we get usually, like, these are in MBs, but in large scale application we get GBs of files every day. So it would be impossible for us to even open that file in the editor and find for the log statements if we don't have the exact string or exact number to find. Okay, so we should be following logging pretty seriously. Like this is very very important for a software developer. Then coming to adhering to code standards, coding principles. So for for backend developers, oops is must. Then solid principles, design patterns, LDD, HDD, all these are must known principles for a software developer. I'll give an example. Like nowadays, all these companies like Google, AWS, they are having their SDKs for Java. They have their SDKs for Java client and all. So so those classes are written some in there. Some of the classes are written in using builder pattern, which I found. Like say for example, we do new builder, then dot set, then dot set. So this pattern is part of design patterns. So we should be able to understand design patterns to understand those client jars as well. So this is one of the examples. So you should be able to have a good grasp on these concepts. This is very much important for a software developer to who are to develop, or who wanted to grow in their company and want to learn more or understand the code better. So for all these cases, we should be able to have a good understanding of OOPS, solid principles, design patterns, LDD, LLD, and HLD. So, and here I have a reference material. Like this guy explains this LDD and HLD pretty well. So I would refer going through this and following up this video. Then the last point is use of AI tools. Well, AI is coming in, has like penetrated into her daily life, I would say. And there are many of them like Bing, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Blackbox. All these are there. So we should be using AI tools for our benefit. Like for example, if we want to have a say dummy data of thousand records, we just need to put in the column names and put some give some statements of, like, we want to have customer IDs with the one to starting from one or starting from thousand. So all these basic details we need to put in. Then these AI tools will get you the data. So these manual tasks can be automated using them. But if you're looking for exceptions in your system, mm, and if you got some exception in a system and you just put in some lines of those exceptions into this AI tools, and you expect that this AI tool will give you a correct answer, then that is not the case, because this AI tools will give you generalized, but your case is a specific case, so that generalized answer may not fit into your case. Instead, it would it would like may go wrong in your case if you implement any of them. Like it will break the functionality or something. So before verifying the before blindly putting the answer from AI tools to your application, just verify the answer, and beforehand you should be able to have a like mindset of what could be the answer. Like it's not that for blind reasons, for blind answers, you shouldn't be going to AI tools and pull the data or pull the answer and put it in your application. This is very wrong. So I would recommend getting some small, like say for example, if you want to iterate over a map, then we can ask these tools to get a map and iterate over it for maybe 1,000 times. And like just we can put in the logic in 1 or 2 lines, and then these AI tools will give us the code for that. So this is called prompt engineering. But I really don't think we need this course to do, because we know what we need to find it from there. So it should not be a big ask for us. Then coming to point number 6, don't forget Stack Overflow. Like Stack Overflow is still there, and it will be there forever, because what we get Overflow we won't be able to get from these AI tools. So we should follow Stack Overflow for any errors which we like for any errors or any queries. The advantage of AI tools is that we can get some understanding of document. Like say for example, if we have a class and we don't know what exactly is the use of this, just put in the class name and say what is the use of this in AWS or in Google or whatever the field this class belongs to. it will give us a clear answer to this, and we can able to proceed after that. Okay, so these all 8 points were relevant to a software developer, and they should follow this to like get a clear picture and understand better. All right, thanks everyone. So I'll come up with another video on this, which will have some more in-depth understanding of some more concepts and knowledge. Thank you.